Okay, Saturday, March 19th. I think it's day 22 now, so usually around 3 weeks you settle into some kind of new way of life. I've accepted it, psychologically. I think it takes 21 days to make a habit or break a habit or make a habit, but yes. Okay, so the airstrike yesterday, it hit an area near the airport, like an industrial area. There were buildings, I think, used to repurpose airplanes or fix airplanes. So that's what the news is saying, and the telegram is saying. Apparently one person was injured. It's not any direct hit on the airport itself, but rather some buildings nearby. Now the Russians made a similar strike in Rivne or Lutz, I can't remember where, hitting a factory that repurposed aircraft engines. So it looks like they're after military infrastructure, as one would say, or communications, radar, anything that can help the Ukrainian war effort. The Russians are making a lot of threats now that any convoys or any shipments of arms from the West will be directly targeted. Now, I don't think I'm revealing anything by stating the obvious, but this area is near the border, and there's a lot of roads there, so it's a bit worrisome that Lviv can now be in the sights of Russia, and I really hope that it doesn't go to chemical weapons. I mean, the ballistic weapons, I don't think they'll hit apartment buildings or anything like that. They'll be looking for military targets this far west. The civilian targets have been mostly hit by artillery, whether it's rocket artillery or just cannon fire versus like missiles launched from far away. The cruise missiles, I mean, from an economic sense, they don't have as many of them. They're much more expensive. So, yeah. So I don't know. It's a bit bothersome. But I heard the situation at the border is not so chaotic as it was before. It's getting better, and Poland has some fast-track system now to give Ukrainians instant ID and social security numbers so they can get integrated into Polish society right away. And Norway is trying to come up with a fast-track system too. But ironically, the Ukrainian ambassador to Norway warned Ukrainians that Norway might be this country you read about, this magic land, but it's incredibly expensive. It's far away. The country is very elongated, so you'll probably get put into a village in Norway, and then you'll be far away from Oslo or one of the big cities, and you'll just have this what we call the A4, like after A4 paper, the A4 life, where you just go through this loop of getting up, having breakfast, which is usually like crisp bread or porridge, something simple, and then you go to your job for 7.5 hours. You get a 30-minute lunch there. You come home, you make some dinner, and you watch some television, or you go to the gym, or you do your activity, whatever it is, your hobby. You have a lot of time in Norway to do hobbies with 5 to 6 weeks off every year, 7.5-hour work days, and very relaxed work culture. It's helps you develop yourself, So I'm standing outside today, kind of risking it. It's -4, but it feels much better. It doesn't feel like minus weather. A little bit nippy, but it's okay. So now I wanted to talk about some discussion I had yesterday with my friends. You can read online. There's been a lot of tactical victories in Kiev. I don't know what to make of it, because like I said, in the U.S. versus Vietnam, the U.S. won every battle but still lost the war. And as I said, I'm a bit fearful. I'm not as optimistic as others. Russia has this giant war machine and masses of resources. And so, yeah, anyway, we talked about that yesterday, strategic versus tactical victories. I believe Ukraine can pull it out if they get China on their side, and the U.S. starts stepping up arms shipments and even intervenes. But if not, it's just going to be a long war. I mean, I'll go on this sidetrack a little bit more from yesterday. So, Russia invaded Finland in 1939, and, the story is 30,000 Finns beat back 1 million Russians. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but that's, but they didn't beat them back completely. they lost Karelia. They lost a big part of the Finnish territory in that victory. So it was impressive, but they still lost territory. So, I mean, Ukraine is doing a good job, but there's still a chance that it'll end up with a territory loss. And I mean, this is just, I'm not hoping for this. I'm just stating what the news every day is telling me and what the data is telling me, that they're very stubbornly stuck in the Kherson and Mariupol. They're very stubbornly stuck in Donbass area. I don't think they'll get Kiev. I think they'll be around Kiev, but they won't get into Kiev. It looks like it's just they're getting devastated trying to enter into any urban area like Kharkiv or anything. These are just massive cities, you know, with lots of streets and networks and everything. I mean, they might. Kharkiv is much bigger than Mariupol. I think Kharkiv is the second biggest city in Ukraine, with millions of people, like 1 or 2 million, and Mariupol is like 300,000 or 400,000. So it would be a much bigger undertaking for them to just flatten that city, you know, and they would be hit back pretty hard, you know. Hopefully these switchblade weapons that are coming will be used to target the artillery and slow down this civilian strategy that they have. But it can go on a long time. You know, most of these wars have gone on a long time, and if they didn't go on a long time, there was some territory loss, like in the Russian-Finnish War or Finnish-Russian War. So it's tough. The uncertainty is tough, and we're all trying to, you know, watch the feeds and figure out what's going to happen next. And it's hard living not knowing what's going to happen next. But okay, now I want to get back to this discussion we had at dinner yesterday. I invited my friend over for dinner, and we had a nice discussion. And we theorized the reason why Russia is failing is, you know, whenever you're having a totalitarian or autocratic society, there's a lot of room for corruption. So, you know, all the people around you are yes men, but they're also screwing you any chance they get. So money was probably allocated, like they're talking about the Russian food rations being very bad. Some of them are like 10 years old, these meals ready to eat, these combat meals, and then they're just eating potatoes, pickles, and onions. Well, what happened is they probably had money to buy new food rations, you know, that money was probably stolen. But he said, yeah, the job is done, and you know, this general or oligarch or whoever is in charge of this put all the money in his pocket and went out and bought a yacht or a plane. And then money was needed for ammunition. Probably he bought 20% of what he was supposed to buy, and then the rest of the money he did some accounting stuff, and that money found its way into a Swiss bank account or found its way to Monaco or London, and they're living large. So I think there's a whole rotten culture inside the Russian government and military like this, where people are just stealing, and that might be paying dividends for Ukraine on the battlefield, because a lot of us are really dumbfounded. You know, I grew up in America during the Cold War. I was in the U.S. Navy, and we had like a respect for our enemy, that it's a formidable force, that the Russian military is like only second to America. It's a very, you know, 10-foot tall Russians. I mean, you see these videos of their special forces doing all this karate stuff, and it's brutal, and you know, these guys look tough, and their equipment is like state of the art. We were believing all this, and it turned out it was very very overrated. And it comes down to this culture of corruption. A guy is given a general is given a budget and a mandate to update some jets or buy some electronic system, and instead he says, oh wow, that's a 40, 50, $100 million. You know, I'm gonna funnel some of that money and, you know, retire abroad nicely one day, or, you know, take care of my kids. You know, you see a lot of you know, Russian rich kids, you know, living in Europe. Where's that money coming from? Because Russia is certainly not doing Silicon Valley stuff. I mean, there are some Russian IT companies, but not on the scale like in Europe or America. They're definitely not manufacturing Toyotas. I mean, no one's buying Ladas. I don't have any Russian consumer products in my house. You know, so where is this money coming from? You know, oil and gas and minerals. Yeah, there's a few oligarchs, but it's like a winner takes all. But the government class there is quite well off. So I would I would say it's that, that any small thing, even just buying some papers for the copy machine, that money probably gets swiped by some entry-level bureaucrat. They get extra $300 or $400, in their bank account, and they're able to, pay for a Christmas party with their family or something. So there's probably all this swiping, just like the Soviet Union. People are swiping everything, and it's just a toxic corporate culture, I would say, or organizational culture that's killing them. And I think that's what we're seeing on the battlefield. I mean, if you look at the tactical victories yesterday, the Ukrainians are doing really well, but they need to maintain a kill ratio of 20-1, if they have any chance to win this. So as long as the West keeps them supplied, I mean, we can be in this like stalemate where we are now. I mean, the Russians are stalled, but the Ukrainians are just holding. I think maybe that'll work, and they will run out of money and give up, and things will break down at home, and they'll go home. We can only hope for that, but that can take a long time. That can take a really, really, really long time. Because, I mean, the Russians we saw, like in Afghanistan, they went at it for 8 years, even though they were just getting blasted, and especially when the Western weapons were rolled in. But we are seeing, some evidence. Russian platoons are refusing to fight. Some Russian general was arrested for leaking information. So there might be some breakdown, but it's not going to happen in 2 weeks. Fox News says the Russians are going to run out of gas in 2 weeks or 10 days, but Ukraine just needs to hang on 10 days and everything will turn around. I think turnaround means that they will stop the forward progress of the Russians, and we'll get into a stalemate type of situation where the lines will kind of stop and hold where they are, kind of like Donbass in 2014 or Crimea. But I do worry about, there's some activity I read in the paper this morning that some amphibious ships are leaving Japan, in the Russian area in Japan. They have these islands north of Japan, Sakhalin Islands, and there's a military base there of Vladivostok, and it's speculated they could be heading to the Black Sea. But it's also my understanding that the Turks are not allowing Russian ships to go through the Bosporus, so I'm not sure what to make of that. I gave my commentary how America needs to, stop, being so scared and kind of take the upper hand and take some Russian territories, if they don't want to do a no-fly zone. But I talked about that in previous videos. But yeah, that's all I got today. It's Saturday, so I'm going to go to the city center. I did my gym yesterday. Oh yeah, one more thing. Yeah, the supermarkets. It's getting noticeable that we're in a war economy. They're selling rice in these like bags and buckwheat in these bags. The fruit was terrible yesterday. We had to go to another supermarket to find proper fruit. So we're now, instead of going to just one supermarket, now we're going to 2 different supermarkets and a granny market. There's a market full of grandmothers. They just put out some tables. It's like a farmer's market, and they just selling random stuff. So yeah, there's no shortage of food overall, but there's a shortage of certain things. Let's say that. But in the rest of Ukraine, there is becoming this crisis. The Russians have systematically taken out infrastructure that affects the supply chain, food supply chain, and this could get worrisome. Like I said, the pain could get so unbearable. People will, and this is where they could lose the territory. People will say, "This is so unbearable. I'm hungry. I'm starving. Let's just stop this war. Whatever. I'll live in hell. Just I need to eat." That sadly, as the Russian war machine gets stuck and gets stagnant, this can be happening on the Ukraine side, and that's where we can get to a stalemate and possible loss of territory. So I like I said, I really hope Joe Biden can remember that he's an American president, and that he's supposed to show some balls. And if Russia threatens nuclear weapons, he just reminds Russia that we have like much more than they do, and much more effective ones, and we can wipe out the whole Russian civilization. Just like Trump did with North Korea. All that North Korean shit stopped right after he said that. When an American president talks, it can create an earthquake, and people listen. I mean, I'm glad Biden called Putin a war criminal. This was good, and then he reiterated it, saying he's a thug or something like this, and doubled down on that. I mean, I'm proud of Joe Biden on that, because when an American president says someone is a war criminal, that means a trial at The Hague. That's what's going through Putin's head now, that he could be at The Hague on trial, and his inner circle heard that, and that's what goes through their head, that they can be on the trial in the Netherlands, and they can be in jail like Milosevic till they die, or they can eventually be hanged, or I think that's still the only thing you can get the death penalty for in the international community, is being a war criminal. So it created a bit of an earthquake, and got him thinking long and hard about this. So yeah, Joe Biden has to use that power of the word. The American president's words are really something. It doesn't matter who's president. Even if Kamala Harris was president and talked like that, it would people would listen. So he has to step up and use these power of words, to shake the Russian inner circle a little bit, and stick it to him. But anyway, I'll be back either tomorrow or day after tomorrow. There's a lot of developments now, so we'll see. All right, take care, everybody.